live stream slash episode of Research Over Me Search. It's been a lot of things going on in the streets, so I'm gonna get right into it. I think a lot of the dialogue around Minnesota and fraud and Somalis has a lot of racial dog whistles and have a lot of different ways that it's manufacturing the public's consent to be able to fuck over Somali people in different ways. What I know is that white supremacy always wants us to get to see the individual acts of non-white people, or in this instance, Somali people, get to see the individual acts of 70 people, you feel me, that's caught up in a daycare fraud scheme, and you being able to map that onto the entire community. What I know as a Black American is that I never let people play in my face when it comes to seeing the tactics or seeing the same shit they try to do with niggas, where they try to put it on another group. You know what I'm saying? And I understand that no matter how much you feel like Somalis are anti-Black, or no matter how much you feel like, no matter how much you feel like they don't care about what happens in our community, when you turn a blind eye or you celebrate the things that this government is doing to them, it perpetuates the power that they're going to have to be able to cross-apply that to our community. And what I can tell you is that this country don't really care about fraud. They don't really care about scamming either. This country really has a selective moral outrage when it comes to mismanagement of government funds. And it definitely has a it definitely has a ethical, selective moral outrage when it comes to people getting over with taxpayers' dollars. That's just point blank, period. But I don't want to just be too much of my feelings. We know, according to Bloomberg, it say the Trump administration is freezing the child care payments to Minnesota and demanding a comprehensive audit to identify any illicit activities. These folks is figuring out a way to chastise the entirety of Minnesota's children because Somalis, or I'm not going to say Somali, because I want to be careful on how I'm even thinking about the groups and how these groups get lumped into thinking of the worst example of that group, and how now this whole entire collective community has to either aid, defend, or be held accountable for the worst decisions we can think about of people having in that group. My grandfather always said every group has assholes, and they usually stink. My high school teacher said that every group has idiots. You know what I'm saying? I want to say that every group has idiots, but there are certain communities that have the ability to transcend and always had the privilege of seeing as being an individual, unless they can benefit as a collective. And I think minority communities, Black communities, you feel me? We always get held in the collective, with the worst examples making it where anytime we held as a bunch, we never seen as getting an advantage. It's always being like, look at those Somalis over there. Even though you got Somali people that has nothing to do with what happened with the scamming, even though you have Somali people that don't even know them folks over there, we're able to gloss over that this was the actions of a few individuals and say that the entire region, Minneapolis, Minnesota, the region that has the biggest Somali population in the country, we're going to say that this community and sensationalize this community as being for fraud. Mixed in with how Ilhan Omar has been getting attacked. We see what's happening right here. But we're going to keep on going. I'm going to keep on reading. It said that we have frozen all child care payments to the state of Minnesota. This is what Jim O'Neill, the deputy secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services, said on X, citing allegations the state funneled millions of taxpayers' dollars to fraudulent daycares over the last decade. What is something that is classy when rich people do it and trashy when poor people do it? Using government funds. And I want to be clear. Do I think this is an action of a sense of fraud and what they did with the daycare? Definitely. Do I think there was some damn fools in how they did it and it was very unethical and how they was able to take government funds talking about childcare? Yeah, niggas, y'all wildin'. But can I also acknowledge the way that y'all are using language and the way that y'all discursively talking about this community has white supremacy and anti-Blackness smelling all over it? Yeah, I can walk and chew gum at the same time always. And I'm just sad that our community in America is losing nuance. But after I was thinking about it, man, I'm about to start talking about Iran here in a minute. And technically American imperialism, but it usually was internationally. It never used nuance. You know what I'm saying? And just some people say fascism is just American imperialism abroad turned inward, you know what I'm saying, domestically. That's when we get fascism. And it's just, according to CBS News, Walls, a Democrat, it say that, and literally I copied and pasted this from the article, and I'm reading it word for word. So we're gonna get to why it talks about a Democrat, because y'all know CBS was bought, and I'll get to that later. According to CBS News, Walls, a Democrat, previously agreed with an estimate from Assistant U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson that fraud across all programs, including Feeding the Children scheme, which is not a DHS administered program, could total $1 billion. That's a lot of goddamn money. I'm not going to just gloss over it and act like, potentially frauding for $1 billion. Like, oh, you scamming. Oh, you really take your scamming so serious that you're able to get this amount. But keep on reading the article. It says fraud is not small. It isn't isolated. The magnitude cannot be overstated. If this is a college policy debate, I would use these words against Thompson. And I'm going to use these words against Thompson. Actually, I might have to get the bottom of this, what I have prepared for this live stream and research of me search. Make sure you like, subscribe, share. But I'm going to start showing how there is a conservative contradiction in a selective moral outrage when we start talking about mismanagement of money, and we start talking about how fraud is not small and how it's not isolated, and how the magnitude should never be overstated, and how there's always multiple different tentacles on the octopus that's really trying to connect and get money to different parts of the ocean. And usually, depending on what the color of the octopus is, it's seen as legitimate business, that this deals with a few, mismanagement of funds, or it's all right fraud, all right scamming. So far, 78 people have been arrested in the Feed Our Future scheme. A majority of them are Somali Americans, although the program's leader, Ami Bak, who was convicted earlier this year, is not. Minnesota has the largest Somali population, and it's not ironic that in the middle of a mass deportation agenda, and they trying to show you and prove to you that, hey, anybody with an immigrant identity, they proven they have that they should not be in America, because look at what they do. They scam. Even when you have Somali Americans that's born and raised in America, you know what I'm saying? You still see that they have to always carry that pathology of being a hyphen American. They always have their citizenship, always have their civil liberties, always have it trivialized and negotiated, because they are hyphen Americans. Not only hyphen Americans, they have immigrant status. What I always find funny with white privilege is Donald Trump is a third generation white American. You have first generation and second generation Somali Americans that's having their American citizenship really, came for in different ways. There are a lot of white people that always try to tell you, my people didn't own slaves. My family migrated here 2 generations ago from Germany. My family, we weren't here during slavery. Those same individuals now that try to discursively get around talking about how they have benefited from slavery is now trying to chastise the immigrant community for literally having the same exact ancestry of them, specifically when it comes to what generation people came here. What generation? Oh, you say that generation. You see how they playing these games. So you even see this right here. When we go to New York City, there's a bunch of European communities that's directly tied to scamming and frauding. Go ask a New Yorker. We're not seeing these communities be sensationalized as uniquely being fraud and scam like in the media. We're not seeing, you feel me? I'm sure there have been some ICE, some ICE attacks on white communities that's immigrant. But I'm sure that it's not as been at the same, tenacity or at the same, prevalence of how it has been in Black and brown immigrant communities. And I think this matters in this conversation about Somali, Minnesota fraud. But let's start getting saucy, though. CBS News was the last thing I read to y'all. It led in the article by talking about how Tim Walz is a Democrat. Now, do I think Democrats is for that shit you flush down toilets? Yeah. I think both Democrats and Republicans just flush down this shit like toilets, but being a policy debater taught me how to do a comparative analysis, and how to do some impact, comparison. And what I say is that the shit in the toilet that the conservatives reek of and smell of, it hit a little bit different than the shit that also stink, the Democrats is coming from up. I share that in a different live stream when I start getting into, I think, the differences of how both of these arms of imperialism, both of these arms of capitalist corporate interests, how they're able to have a Venn diagram. You know what I'm saying? Where you got some of them that's able to be hella neoliberal, and you got other of them that's able to be fascist. And sometimes you can't tell the difference, but sometimes, there are political, social, economic ways that we can split these hairs. But I say that for the thing. What I will say is that in 2024, before CBS was apprehended by fascists, before CBS shifted to appease the right under its new owner, they did a fact check that showed that the Pentagon had failed 7 audits in a row. Not only failed 7 audits in a row, said that Trump had a $350 million fraud verdict that included his New York businesses ban for 3 years. And here's what we know. We know that Trump and the Trump administration also ordered to pay penalties of $354 million in what is now the stiffest corporate sanction in New York history. The total jumps to $453 million when prejudgment interests are factored in. So when you have a president that is able to ring the alarm, put batteries in y'all backs, and try to point y'all towards Minneapolis, Minnesota, towards Somalis, what he's doing is making it where y'all ain't focused on the $350 million. So they said that the daycare fraud was $250 million. So we care about 250 miles. That's $250 million. You see what I'm saying? Trump then got caught in scamming for almost $500 million when it comes to New York. Somehow his scamming is seen as a democratic ruse and a witch hunt. You know, and he's seen as a good businessman. But hey, 70 people in Somalia, 7 people in Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minneapolis, where the Somalis is at, now the entire community got to be seen as scammers. We don't see the entire Trump administration as scammers. Let's keep on reading, man. So when we fact check and think about how the Pentagon and think about how much of the how much of the American budget goes towards military. Put that in context. The Pentagon has failed 7 audits in a row. In November 2024, the Pentagon failed to pass its annual audit, meaning that it was only able to fully account for how its $824 billion budget was used. $824 billion is closer to $1 trillion than it is to $500 million. Y'all is saying $250 million compared to 824. Because to me, like this, hey, all fraud matters. You see what I'm saying? But when it comes to, dealing with how we have different severities or different, ways that scamming happen, it's like we got to create a hierarchy on how we should understand it. And what I say is that $250 million is a lot less than $824 billion. So when you have different agencies that is funded uniquely by taxpayers' dollars and they can't account for $824 billion and you trying to convince me you care about scamming and you going after what you believe as the entirety of the Somali community in Minneapolis to get into scamming, it showed me that you have not been able to think for yourself and that you've been successfully indoctrinated to buying into dog whistles or whatever the white supremacists tell you to think while they divert attention from themselves. This right here what it said. According to Peter Stone at The Guardian, I've never seen such open corruption. This about Trump's crypto deals that's loosening the rules and shocking observers and showing that when Barack Obama had used, his influence to wear a cream suit or used influence in the White House to be able to drone strike. I'm being funny with that one. He was drone striking shit though. But you know what I'm saying, thinking about how he used his position, in the White House to be able to have a selfie stick, it was understood that he was misusing his authority. You feel me? And they went out. They outraged. Donald Trump is being able to quid pro quo, being America's first crypto president that is allowing for him to line his pockets. Well, the scam and outrage, CBS, Fox News, where y'all live. So you care more about 70 Somalis taking, taking $250 million and you ain't tripping on your president of the United States before he became president was already being, think about it. He scammed so much that the New York State banned him from running business. Facts over feelings. Y'all love Ben Shapiro, facts over feelings. He was banned from conducting business because of how much he scams. And now you're trying to convince me, consciously, when you're going to talk about the Somalis, I guess that doesn't fit your platform, doesn't fit your narrative, so I don't think you want to talk about them. Let's talk about it. But let's not just isolate and think about how scamming acts in a vacuum. Think about what I said earlier. You feel me? Your man said that, scamming is not isolated. Fraud is not isolated. I said earlier, fraud and scam is not isolated. And we see that a lot of the different American corporations, a lot of the oligarchs, they're able to be a part of this elaborate fraud scheme that allows for them to line their pockets while they get us to focus on the person that's left and right to us instead of looking up. Remember that meme of the of obviously the white corporate owner sitting on a mountain of cookies. And it's 1.5 cookies on the table, one of them already crushed up. And the dude telling the American white man, hey, be careful because that immigrant is trying to steal your cookie. Meanwhile, he's sitting on a mountain of cookies. This is how I know, like, a lot of y'all that claim y'all care about classism, and I'm talking specifically to white conservatives, when y'all say we should focus more on class, I know y'all be lying, because if y'all focus more on class, y'all would have much more of a class beef with how a bunch of the white conservatives are getting y'all to vote against y'all interests. We always talk about how black people always vote Democrat. And we can sit with that and be critical and impact, like, damn, y'all only come to the hood every 4 years. And the other y'all that, you know what I'm saying, that always be here, y'all figure out a way to exploit y'all nonprofit ideas and things like that. But we never talk about how, hey, there are white communities that have been voting Democrat, voting Republican and haven't gotten any return on their gain. any gain in return when it comes to their investing with the Republican Party. And we don't talk about that. White folks in Kentucky, white folks in Mississippi, white folks in Alabama. What is the political, social, economic benefit they have other than being able to say they're better than the niggas across the river? This is what I mean. To me, it's like the millionaires and billionaires was really smart when they figured out how to get us hundredaires and thousandaires to wage class warfare against each other while they pluck us. You feel me? They got the bread truck. We fighting each other over crumbs. According to Peter Stone, Trump much hyped May 22nd a dinner at the White House tour. It was 25 leading meme coin buys that were devised to spur sales of the Trump coin, and wound up ranking in about $148 million, much of it courtesy of the anonymous foreign buys for Trump and his partners. Trump Casino, scam. Trump University, scam. Like, I don't like some would even say allegedly the reason why he cozied up to Putin, and the reason why he has his handler, Melania. I'm saying allegedly what I listened to from the social media streets is that Trump was caught up in scamming so much in, I guess, the 1990s, that it was the Russian government that bailed him out financially. And that's the reason why the Russian mob and the Russian government been in his pockets. And that's the reason why he been that little bitch, because he has a quid pro quo. He owed them folks now. So when you think about scamming, his scamming is so bad, it's allowed for foreign intervention and foreign involvement, not only with the president in terms of elections, but also just having an intimate personal relationship with the president, whether he was running the campaign for presidency, whether he was in office as the president, it literally don't matter. So when y'all start talking about how we worrying about how these Somalis is coming over to America and they impacting, different, elections and shit like that, we never talk about, okay, let's say hypothetically the reason why they're here. Let's say hypothetically all of them are immigrants. Why they here? What happened in their country that made it where they had to flee? Who is responsible for the land theft or the exploitation of resources in Somalia? Black Hawk down. Look at me. I'm the captain now. Scamming. It's not isolated. And understanding colonialism and imperialism, I would say that this is a legitimate way that through history has been legitimized for Europeans to scam and be fraudulent. And like Buddy Elliott said up top, fraud is never isolated. It's never isolated. There is always going to be multiple hands, you know what I'm saying? Rupert, what's his name? Murdoch, you feel me? And pyramid schemes and shit like this. It's always a web. It's always a web. Elon Musk, the immigrant from South America who built this wealth using the American government. When other immigrants are perceived as making money off of the government, it's seen as scamming because you're an immigrant. Elon Musk's company, primarily SpaceX and Tesla, has secured tens of billions in U.S. government contracts and loans and subsidies, with estimating ranging from over $38 billion in total support over 2 decades, including loans and tax breaks. Up top, the Minnesota scamming is being sensationalized because they're saying it happened over a decade under Democratic leadership. I would argue that both Democratic leadership and Republican leadership is horseshit, and we need new leadership in all ways more than some. What I will also say is that I am very skeptical of how white folks, particularly, this is the part where I got to get, I'm finna get off script a little bit, what I had prepared for the news, man. I'm finna have what I had prepared for the news. It kind of bothers me how when people of color have conflict with each other, it's pathologized as being uniquely how people of color fight with each other. I don't know that to be black folks. When white people have beef with each other, they are able to obfuscate it as being the Democrats versus Republicans. It's not seen as white on white crime and white on white violence. You see what I'm saying? If a black man showed up to two black elected officials and assassinated them in their home, Fox News would run waves talking about how we have black on black crimes. And even when you have the Negroes that have a Negro that was elected in office, the Negroes still kill each other. But when a white man shows up, you feel me, to another white person's house and assassinates them, the language is skirted into talking about political violence, and it's not seen as being racial. It's not seen as being white on white crime. In every single of these instances right here, we seeing that race is always inscribed when we start thinking about how black and brown immigrants are using government funds. And when it comes to Elon Musk, the white South African, he's able to become the world's first trillionaire as an immigrant that's able to build all this money off of government subsidies, government contracts. When we think about it and we start to study World War I and World War II, were there non-European countries in there? Yeah, that was a minority though. Typically, when we studying these battles, it's white folks fighting white folks. We don't see it as that. So if we have an idea that black people are fighting black people, how does this justify oppression or exploitation? Or if they're doing it to each other, I can do it to them too. When white people wage war against each other, especially within politics, it's not seen as white on white crime and white on white violence. They can literally kill each other. You having white Republicans buying out white Democrat spots and being able to really be like, fuck y'all about y'all shit. CBS used to be more liberal. Now it's more conservative. This not seen as a little proxy war amongst white people because they seen as individuals. They have the privilege of being an individual. Black folks, we always seen as a collective. So if a couple of us fight, the collective scene is fighting. But if a few individual white folks fight, hey, man, it ain't seen as that. Seen as legitimate forms of conflict and being able to understand, yeah, proximity. We have a disagreement because we be around each other, so now we fighting. When I'm reading this shit about fraud and scamming, I'm thinking about that also, how it's racialized and how the total government support has been at least $38 billion in contracts, loans, and subsidies. This according to Washington Post and this firm since 2003. We know that SpaceX contracts are over $22 billion in federal contracts, including major NASA and DoD deals, from the launching satellites to national security missions. When we started talking about DOGE, the department that was supposed to be getting rid of government fraud and waste, there wasn't a lot of people that went to jail. In many instances, nobody went to jail. How can you have crime with no assailant that committed the crime? How can you have fraud and you ain't got somebody seen as being a scammer? So what he was able to do was masterfully move out a lot of competition so he could commit fraud and now be able to have a conflict of interest to get his companies government contracts at the same time he's saying he's getting rid of waste and fraud. He's committing fraud. Anytime we see a black person that's in power, especially in the government, and we feel like they're having conflict of interest and they misusing or misappropriating funds or contracts, it's seen as fraud. But Elon Musk is on his way to making human history and being the first world trillionaire, a lot made off of tax dollars. When he's getting a contract from the government, how is the government paying him? With tax dollars. Don't tell me you all cared about, Somali. Listen. You can take all of the wealth in Somalia, take all the wealth of Somali Americans. It don't come close to the wealth of Elon Musk. Hey, hey, if a Somalian or a Jamaican or a Haitian came to America and made shit $100 million, and it was came to be learned, we learned afterwards that the first 4 or 5 years that was in America, that was here illegally, we're gonna see all their wealth that's being illegitimate. We're gonna see all their wealth that's being made on the back of something that was illegal, and the illegality of the wealth is seen through and through. But Elon Musk can overstay a visa. He can overstay a visa, and we all know, we make fun of it and we laugh about it. And there's no legal consequences. He's still seen as his wealth. Hey, seem like anything a white person have, especially when it comes to wealth, no matter how much fraud and scam and exploitation and, you know what I'm saying, shit they use, is seen as legitimate. But if it smell like in any way, shape, form, or fashion, that for especially a black person, you feel me, it's seen as being like illegitimate. And I'm gonna get to that when we start talking about war in a minute. Just in closing this up, because a lot of y'all think a lot of people showing y'all there's a selective moral outrage when it comes to mismanagement of government funds, and there's a selective moral outrage when it comes from stealing taxpayers' dollars. It is always seen as classy and cool when white folks are able to get around paying taxes and being able to get all type of government contracts to line their wealth and be able to help their families out. And anytime a black person is seen as doing it, on face value, is seen as being illegitimate and fraud and scam. The elephant in the room is when it comes to the government giving niggas shit, y'all feel like it never should happen. Or I said it in a much more politically respectful way. When it comes to African Americans receiving government funds, there are a lot of individuals that believe that these government funds are given out nefariously because black people off of presence do not deserve to have government funds because the government was not made for them. In this instance, it's easy for them to say it because now they're able to use the government status of citizenship by saying, if I believe you're an immigrant, hey, never mind that everybody is enabled to their inalienable rights. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness by the creator, not by the American government. Never mind that we told to romanticize how the white folks is able to come here there in Ellis Island and create better lives for themselves and escape persecution and a whole bunch of things and be able to look for what? Look for what? I'm studying now. But asylum, that's the word we're looking for. That's the word we all should be starting to use. How does it look from a racial citizenship standpoint of when white people are coming to America for asylum versus when it's an El Salvadorian or when it's a Somalian or when it's a Haitian? We see in recent growth for Elon Musk, he's been able to provide, he's been provided at least $6.3 billion in 2024 alone in government. I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm talking about there's just ways for us to just already point out the way y'all talk about scamming is full of shit. It's cool when they do it. It's a problem when I do it. Now let's get into some more, research over me search, and we're gonna be critical with this next topic because I think that it is a way for us to unpackage how power works and for us to think about who gets to curate narratives and what those narratives mean based off of who's curating them. Typically, when a bully punches somebody in the face, they don't see it as an assault. They don't see it as fight. They see it as just, a little bullying. But usually it's seen as a fight, you feel me, when the bully get hit back. The initial violence ain't seen as because the bully got authority on the playground. It's Iran declaring war. The headlines read this. Iran president declares full-fledged war with U.S., Israel, and Europe. Remember up top now, Elliot said that scamming and fraud is not isolated. Remember what I said this a few minutes ago. Imperialism and colonialism, all that shit is just legitimized fraud and scamming on a nation state level. That's all it is. Now, what the Iran president said is that his country is engaged in a full-fledged war with the United States, Israel, and Europe, describing the faceted as past tense, as it's already happened or it's happening now. That pressures on Iran as a far more complex and difficult than the 1980s, 1988 remark. He says that when it comes to the way that they've been able to impact, Iran politics, that they've been able to do it through a very complex, difficult way where they're able to infiltrate. What we know is that American CIA intelligence and shit like that, we train people on how to destabilize democracies and nation states. And like Netanyahu said when he bought TikTok, we ain't fighting wars with cavalry like that. We ain't fighting wars these days dropping nuclear bombs. We fighting these wars with immigration and culture wars. You feel me? We fighting these wars with technology and how we're able to apprehend different, entities. So when they talk about having this elaborate way, when the president talks about this elaborate way about how Iran is already being attacked, we got to really put this in perspective. Now, if America orchestrates Israel to bomb Iran, it's not seen as an act of war, it's seen as a preemptive strike to make sure we protect Israel. If America bombs Venezuela in the guise of, the war on drugs, it's not seen as an act of war. It's seen as a humanitarian act to stop to stop the bad brown cartel drug dealers. If America bombs Nigeria, no matter what the president of Nigeria say, man, hey, listen, what you saying happened to President Trump, that shit ain't happening. It don't matter. America can bomb Nigeria, which is an act of war, and we don't see it as America declaring war on Nigeria. But the president of Iran acknowledges that there is an orchestration of Israel, America, and Europe that is trying to destabilize my country, that's sanctioning my country, that's causing a whole bunch of different instability and conflict within our country. You see what I'm saying? That's making it where they declaring war on us. And I'm telling y'all, if I keep on doing it, I'm gonna do something about it. And I want to be clear too. I'm not trying to say Iran is a good country. I'm not trying to say I want to go there. I'm not taking away from none of the humanitarian crisis and none of the humanitarian acts that Iran as an Islamic state has created. But I'm also very, very, very conscious of how Islamophobia and how dog whistles around Islamophobia works. So what happens is y'all are sensationalize Iran as being the worst Islamic state, you feel me, they ever seen, which is, you know what I'm saying? But then you map that on to the entire region. Now the entire region has to be responsible for how y'all see Iranian people and how y'all see the extreme Islamic terrorists. This is how white supremacy works, and this is how they're able to manufacture these scams, these frauds, but doing it on a national level. International. I'm shipping international. Shout out to the producer. International level. How they able to do it on an international level, on a globalized level, and it's seen as being legitimate. I seen that the Queen Victoria Netflix, Queen Victoria, you know what I'm saying, on Netflix is kind of it's trending right now. And I went and kind of did some little digging and like, man, why the hell she so, you know what I'm saying? Why everybody like her so much? And what I found is that she's seen as a great queen because she was able to help the United Kingdom through their imperial industrialization period. So when you think about the scramble of Africa, when you think about how India is being overtaken, all that happened under Queen Victoria watch, and that's what she's credited for. She's credited as being the benevolent imperialist. When I think of the word benevolent, I think of it as always being like kind-hearted, you know? And when I looked up the word and defined benevolent imperialism, it's like, yeah, she's saying justified to imperialize because I'm bringing democracy, I'm bringing freedom, I'm bringing civility. These some uncivilized folks, I'm gonna imperialize, I'm gonna colonize, imperialize their shit, and I'm gonna bring them humanity and democracy. That's benevolent, you know what I'm saying? Imperialism. That's really scamming. That's what a scammer will do on the streets. They'll see you, sell you a problem you probably really ain't got, and they able to come up on it. At the end of the day, you out of something and they gain something. Historically speaking, I think India, it accounted for, I think it was like, let me know in the comment section, like 40% of the global, economy. And then after the British left, it was only like 4%, 6%. Maybe I'll make no numbers up. Let's say it like this. Before the British started to colonize India, the Indian economy accounted for a lot of the global economy, a significant part of it. After the British got done pillaging and Queen Victoria got done taking all the jewels she wanted, they were able to only account for less than 10% of the global, economy. This is how fraud works. And what the person in Iran is acknowledging is that, hey, y'all are using the various ways that you fuck over our people to justify you fucking us all over. We don't do, hey, America fuck over a lot of people. We dealing with fascism right now. You know what I mean? Imagine if Iran or Somalia justified coming and taking American resources because Donald Trump fucking us over right now. That's how imperialism and scamming work on an international level. I'm gonna say, yo, people being fucked up about you, and it's gonna justify me coming in and scamming. This is what they say right here. Get back to the reading. In my opinion, we're in a full-fledged war with America, Israel, and Europe. They do not want our country to stand on its feet. That's what Pathologizing said, accusing the Western powers of besieging Iran economically, culturally, and politically in security matters. He contrasted the current situation with the Iran-Iraq war, noting that the earlier conflict involved clear military engagements, whereas today's pressures are more broader, more insidious. We figured out sometimes we ain't even got a half blood shed. We can wage psychological war in a way that make it where the whole world view you as always being the inherent signifier of what it means to be a terrorist. Muslim equals terrorist. Islam equals terrorist. And what we see is that whether we're talking about Somalia, or we talking about Yemen, or we talking about Iran, if we can smell some Islam in there, y'all praise Allah. Oh, yeah, y'all shouldn't have told me that. I'm finna use all y'all belief in the Quran to come in there and take everything y'all asses got, unless you're willing to be our bitch like Saudi Arabia. If you're willing to bow down, or, you know what I'm saying, get down, lay down, if you don't want to lay down like Saudi Arabia, we gonna come and destabilize all your shit. You know what I'm saying? We gonna come to stabilize all your shit. We gonna justify it. We gonna justify it. I think that a part of my idea in doing this live stream, this weekly live stream you should tune into every Wednesday morning at 10:30, is to be able to, define the phenomenon that make it act in a desired manner. That's what Huey P. Newton says power is. So I'm hoping that I'm able to provide a language, a context that's historical and also contemporary in terms of politics, that gives you a way to say what you mean and mean what you say about how you position in the world and how the world, is moving. A lot of times when I was young and I felt like I was being disarmed, or I felt like I wasn't free, I didn't have the ability to kind of acknowledge what I wanted to acknowledge because I ain't had a language for it. And a lot of times when I felt like I didn't have the language to be able to describe the reality I was in, I felt captive to the reality I couldn't describe. And I'm hoping that by tuning in, you feel me, to research, I'm able to provide some language that can allow for you to also say what you mean and mean what you say and articulate the world that's going on around you. A lot of times when it comes to oppression and when it comes to people being oppressed, I would say the pedagogy of oppression makes it where whatever language an oppressed person gonna be able to use, talking about resistance, talking about our reality, there gonna be ways that we get gaslighted and be disarmed about it. So I'm hoping in tuning into this, you're able to discursively and come up with a language to describe the world that we in, to make it where you ain't crazy. A lot of times people will follow my content and be like, damn, I've been trying to say it there. I've been trying to figure out where to say that shit. Thank you for saying that. A lot of times when we start thinking about, the way that America act like the gangster of the world, that word I learned is American hegemony. I want to define hegemony because I think that it's worthwhile, define it. And then listen, if you're looking to get any access to any research that I have, I've quoted in this, subscribe to the Substack. Hegemony is described as a political cultural dominance of one group's state or idea over the others, achieved through influence, consent, and the naturalization of norms rather than just force. When I think about hegemony, I think about what it means to say, like, listen, man, I'm gonna give you talk to you like a pimp. You can get down, you can lay down. Right now, your pocket's flat. I can help you get it up. That's hegemony. American leadership, what we're talking about. When the president said that we was gonna create the Iron Curtain and said, hey, Europe, you better not bring your ass to the Western Hemisphere, we're gonna have problems. That was American hegemony. What we're getting into, though, is how Western powers, along with other nations, are able to do one thing while saying they're doing something else. You feel me? Like, slap the shit out of you and say I'm massaging your face. Put my foot in your ass and say I'm helping you clean it. This is what we're talking about. Common methods that include framing military action, a humanitarian intervention. These actions are presented as necessary to prevent atrocities. Think about how many times we've justified exploitation of a foreign nation because we're going to green them some humanitarian intervention. This is what Ibrahim Traore, in Burkina Faso, I seen him do a speech on that. That anytime white folks see it as an African country being, you want to be an ally, This justify you coming in, setting up a military base within my country. But goddamn, England is your ally too, and I ain't seen no American military bases in England. This is how doublespeak work, and this how like really like benevolent imperialism operates. And this how we can say we doing one thing and bringing you another. Peacekeeping and peacemaking missions. Military deployments are sometimes labeled as efforts to stabilize the region, enforce a ceasefire, or facilitate peace process. We all knew, I was in 2001, I was 10 years old, I was in the 5th grade. By the time I got to middle school and they switched it up from saying we're looking for weapons of mass destruction to now we want to stabilize democracy, and I seen all the people with the gold, I started thinking like, something ain't right here. I ain't even going to high school yet. I'm in middle school. Something ain't right here. So y'all said, y'all told me that the people that flew the planes into the towers, y'all told me that was from Afghanistan, Pakistan. Why the hell y'all invaded Iraq? How the hell y'all? So now you didn't kill him, took his gold, all in the name of humanitarian intervention, and peacekeeping. America will trick us and say they care about when government officials are abusing their citizens. Figure out all justifications of why they doing it to their own citizens, and then use the same things they justifying here doing to their own people as being a reason to intervene, to intrude, to invade another country. Another way, counter-terrorism operations. Everything I'm labeling right here is every single one of these methods has been used to justify taxpayers' dollars going to the military to bring stability and freedom and democracy to a region, and then tell your ass they fighting for your freedom. How your freedom get in Afghanistan? But they ain't doing it to take no oil though. Now they come out and tell you, but they kind of mix it in. Trump say, man, I'm going to Venezuela, got some oil. It belonged to us, but also they got drug dealers too. Southside the realest. Drug dealers, killers. That's literally what they saying. He said, hey, you heard the Big Tug song? Big Tug said we have to be mindful of the drug dealers and killers. And Trump says that if you listen to, you know what I'm saying, the Dallas legend, he gonna say we should be mindful of the drug dealers, killers in Venezuela. And it's justified using taxpayers' dollars. Your black ass, your poor ass, your white ass, your Mexican ass, we can't get you any funds to get you some health care, to get you some education, but we can use funds to blow up somebody that we thought was a Venezuelan drug dealer, but they really a Colombian fisher. And you mad at the Somalians or the Somalis, feel me? Another example, they're going to enforce international law and sanctions. They're going to enforce national law and sanctions. I've learned the way that sanctions work, and it's real mess for y'all when you think about it, right? So America and Europe, they dominate the global economy. If you do some shit they don't like, instead of invading your country, they're going to sanction your shit. This going to impact the money circulation in your country and do like sometimes happen in Iran and make it where, hey, after decades of being sanctioned, the value of the money in your country, it don't mean shit no more. You've been sanctioned. Like I'm talking about the dollar value is starting to deflate because you don't even get to do any type of engagement with the global economy. And the global economy dollar is what keeps your dollar being able to have some value because you got to be interacting. So once I'm able to lock your ass out of the economy, now your dollar and your it don't even matter so much. That's how sanctions work. Or right here, you're going to enforce an international law and break international law while enforcing it. hey, we said Saddam Hussein's breaking humanitarian law because he's a dictator. And we got to go stop the way that he's creating these humanitarian crimes and creating these, you know what I'm saying, breaking international law. We got to go stop his ass. In doing that, we finna have all type of different Iraqi prisoners. We gonna be embarrassing them. We gonna be sodomizing them and putting all type of things in their butt. We gonna be figuring out different ways to parade them as animals. We gonna be taking pictures with them. We gonna be figuring out ways to make them dance and entertain for us. You know, we're gonna figure out a way to have collective punishment on hey, listen, I don't give a damn what y'all said was Saddam Hussein did, right? When they drop a bomb on Iraq, they figuring out that's hitting women, kids, and children, all that shit. That's an international crime. That's collective punishment. So you see the double speak right here. You see the scamming right here. We gonna say America is going to invade this country in the name of upholding humanitarian international law. At the same time, they're gonna be breaking humanitarian international law. Hey, that gold they stole from Iraq. If you ain't never seen it, go look at U.S. military Iraq gold. Type it in on Google and look at that. Look it up. What it said? What it said now? He got assassinated. He got hung in whatever. It's 2025, 2026, around the corner. Tomorrow, literally. Happy New Year's. Happy New Year. My bad. You know what I'm saying? The way this is connected to Venezuela is that it makes it where American domination and American imperialism is always able to control the global economy, especially when it comes to the circulation of oil. So because America has an interest within going to Venezuela, they no longer have to lie to us fully and say we're going there to stop the war on drugs. You know what I'm saying? Now they can go in and say it also has to do something with oil. And then we tie to thinking about how global powers fight with each other. So anytime America feel like China or Russia is involved, they coming. When it comes to Somalia, the Somalian government was starting to be too cozied up with the Chinese and the Russians, and America seeing that shit. Israel seeing that shit. So what they gonna do? We gonna abuse international law, recognize Somaliland as his own country, fuck Somalian, you know what I'm saying? Fuck the Somalis, you know what I'm saying? And fuck Somalia sovereignty. We don't give a damn about none of that international law. I'm Israel. I do what I want to do. And we're going to do that all in the name of making sure we can't let these Russians and these Chinese do this. Bring Venezuela in. Venezuela, hey, who Venezuela cool with too? America fight they too cozied up with. The goddamn Chinese and the Russians. So what you see is that when it comes to having autonomy, white America get to choose what is best for Colombia, what is best for Venezuela, what is best for Haiti, what is best for Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico, a colony. You know what I'm saying? This is what America gets to choose. And then this is how you manufacture consent. You bomb their countries, you fuck it up, you take all their resources. When they come to your country for refuge and asylum, because you bomb theirs, you say they fucking up your country, and they bring in the warfare, and they bring in the instability, and they bring in the criminality to your country. Whole time you brought it to theirs. That's how it works. We gonna say your country is underdeveloped, whole time it's overexploited. It's the part that really blew my mind when it comes to international relations and how the government has done a good job in making a bunch of us American citizens just dumb and stupid, especially when it comes to international politics, where we double down and be like, oh, I don't give a fuck of what's happening over there. And to me, it's metaphorically, man, you got a house. You got a house. Your mom and your daddy there. They got a budget. They give 30% of the budget to the house. And they give 45% of the budget to another street, another city. And you're going to tell me you shouldn't care about how your mom and daddy sending money out the house to another city, to another street. That's how y'all sound to me when y'all say international politics don't work. You know, it don't matter. When we talking about how young niggas go to the military and they coming out with charges and going to get tattoos and shit, what they going to go do? What they going to go do? When I was in college, I read this little paper, you know what I'm saying, this journal from this scholar by the name of Dylan Rodriguez. Dylan Rodriguez is very critical with democracy. And what he was talking about in the paper that I read was how the military industrial complex has a relationship with the military, with the prison industrial complex. And that when we are critical with thinking about how we wage war abroad, it has a direct relationship to how we criminalize here, you know what I'm saying, domestically. And thinking about like who's most likely to join the military. A poor person of color, looking for opportunities, looking to climb the ladder. Who's going to jail and being convicted at alarming rates? The same demographic that the military is recruiting. The same community that get chastised for being ungrateful for America and for American liberties to be the same communities that get uniquely recruited to go fight American imperialism abroad. Then they'll fight you and make a person lose their whole job and say you got no sense because you don't respect the military. And then the person from the military come home and they homeless, dealing with mental health issues on the streets. I just think, while I get to the comment section, I just think we should be much more vigilant with how our tax dollars are spent, especially when you claim that you outraged because the welfare queen or the Somali American was able to get off with a couple of more food stamps to get our way with $250 million. Like, you care about tax dollars, so care about them. Don't have a selective moral outrage around the tax dollars. Really get into it. really get into it. Dylan Rodriguez, D-Y-L-A-N. Yeah, Norma. Dylan Rodriguez, you know. A red lady red. You should be able to have a nuance and understand that the military labor, the people that, contribute the most labor towards the military, these is Black and brown folks. It's not negating that the authority of the military, which is typically white people, white men that believe in American imperialism, and people like Peter Hessig that believe you have to have all the European masculine, qualities to be able to show you a good soldier. This right here is how we do it. Think about it like this. When white conservatives want to sensationalize the NBA and the NFL for being dominated by Black people and for being a way to talk about Black privilege, they never talk about who signed them checks. They privileged because they make too much money, because what they doing to make money, it ain't worth that. But the owners make astronomically more than the players. This, you know how they do it. I see KKK, a person right here, think about it right here. The PPP loan shit right here show me the entire country was scamming on PPP loans. The entire country used and abused the pandemic and the public crisis that we had, and they took government dollars. Tom Brady had just signed, he had just signed a contract, and he took almost $1 million in PPP loans. Baby Blue, whoa, from Pretty Ricky. That nigga went to the Fed time because he took some, he was buying goddamn Lamborghinis and shit like that with his PPP loan money, and it was seen like, hey, this is misappropriation funds, go to jail. How much PPP loan forgiveness was given to financially off white people that nobody bat an eye to? Y'all more concerned with the woman that's in the streets that got a BBL, or you more concerned with the nigga that got $20,000 and bought a chain and a dog? You more concerned with that than these people that got away with millions of dollars and doing the same thing. I don't think for y'allself, and y'all tell on y'allself. You say you really concerned with blood, and you point at a little scrape. Motherfucker come in bleeding from a whole gunshot wound, and you ain't turn a blind eye. You still want to talk about the scrape. That's how a lot of y'all come after me. When y'all talk about the Somalians, man. Hey, Brett Favre did fart. What? People ain't talking about it. Feel me? Brett Favre stole money from welfare. Listen, Mississippi, one of the poorest states in the country. You took government funds from people that need it in Mississippi, and you did what you wanted to do with it. And that scene is being cool, man. In closing, because I feel like I didn't have, I got everything off my chest I want to get out today. Subscribe to the Substack, Research Over Me Search. I got episodes that come out on Sunday as well. This Sunday I got an episode coming out about Vlad, hip hop, cultural appropriation. Check it out. Sunday, Sundays, Wednesdays. So we'll be going into 2026. Sundays, Wednesdays, pull up on me, Research Over Me Search, consciously. Yeah. Glad you made it live too, Black Summer. Glad you made it live, man. And if you're not able to catch it on Sunday or Wednesday, or you're not able to get to your Substack, or you're not able to get to your YouTube, or you're not able to get to wherever else I'm streaming TikTok and Facebook, you're always able to catch it on Spotify and Apple Music.
Spontaneous percussion.